Kate Burns, chargée d'affaires of the U.S. mission to the USC, stated to the USC Permanent Council that the level of violence in eastern Ukraine continues to escalate. Ukrainian casualties, both civilian and military, continue to increase. And the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission Deputy Chief Monitor stated that the number of Ukrainian soldiers killed in action is 1/3 higher this year, she was saying that in 2017, compared to the same period in 2016. The fighting, according to the Chief Monitor, is getting worse, not better. Russia and the so-called separatist backs demonstrate on a daily basis their willful disregard for civilian lives, which have been lost at a dramatic rate. Ambassador Kurt Volker, the special U.S. representative for cooperation on Ukrainian issues, stated that this is a hot war, not a frozen conflict, and it requires immediate attention of the international community. The ambassador also said something that probably few people know, that 2017 has been the most violent year of the conflict since it began. And that peace in Ukraine can only come about if Russia pulls its forces and leadership from that region. Now, why do they all say this? The OSCE SMM reports about the activities in eastern Ukraine in figures provide the following troubling statistics. In 2016, there were 320,130 ceasefire violations that were recorded, and in 2017, 80,000 more. That is 401,336 ceasefire violations. On average, that means that there are over 1,100 violations every single day. Instances when weapons in violation of Minsk withdrawal lines were observed also increased from 3,099 in 2016 to 4,065. And the OSCE also reported regarding the weapons that the latest fighting involved the use of highly destructive multiple launch rocket systems, and that these systems were originally conceived to destroy large concentrations of soldiers and equipment in major conflicts, effectively scorching a 1,000-meter square area when they are fired. Impediments to the fulfillment of the OSCE mission also grew from 1,950 in 2016 to over 2,400 in 2017. Since the beginning of the Russian Federation in eastern Ukraine, around 11,000 have been killed, including over 2,500 civilians. 23,000 have been wounded. And I know that when you talk about statistics in large numbers, one can get lost. So let me tell you that last week, 4 Ukrainian soldiers were killed, 17 were wounded. Since the beginning of 2018, 25 soldiers have been killed and 36 wounded. 7.2% of Ukraine's territory in eastern Ukraine is illegally occupied by the Russian Federation. There are about 1.6 million internally displaced persons. There are over 100 hostages in the Donbass, 64 political prisoners in the Russian Federation and Crimea. The United Nations provides that in its 2018 report on humanitarian issues that 4.4 million people are affected by the war, that 3.4 million people need humanitarian assistance, that 3 million people are affected by continuous interruption of water and electricity facilities, 1.9 million people are affected by mines across Donbass, 1.2 people are either moderately or severely food insecure. In Crimea, the report of the Tatar agency on the situation in 2017 also shows a bleak picture. 4 deaths, 16 political prisoners, 16 people missing, 286 detentions, 340 interrogatories, 62 searches, 46 arrests, and 104 fines. That is the bleak summary of 2017. The chairman of the Munich Security Conference, Ambassador Ischinger, stated in February 2018 that the ongoing conflict in Ukraine remains the most important stumbling block for security issues. Without meaningful progress in the realization of the Minsk agreements, the prospects for a political solution remain vague. During that same Munich Security Conference, the Prime Minister of Poland, Mr. Mateusz Morawiecki, stated something that we should all remember. He said that in the context of the security of Europe, we have to remember that the Russian issue is no longer just Central and Eastern Europe's issue, but is a question of the entire North Atlantic Alliance and European Union. One takes into account the numerous cyber attacks, including the virus named NotPetya, that quickly spread worldwide, inflicting billions of dollars in damages across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. The interference in the elections in foreign countries, including in the US and France. The financing of political parties in foreign countries. The destabilization measures in neighborly countries. The numerous acts of terrorism, and the massive Russian disinformation that, according to the Assistant Deputy Secretary of State of the United States, who testified in 2015 before a US Senate committee, has stated that the Russian Federation spends on an annual basis approximately $1.4 billion, that disinformation reaches 600 million people in 130 countries in 30 languages of the world. That is why I salute the soldiers that are sitting in front of us because they are not only protecting the territorial integrity of Ukraine, but they are ensuring that the President of the Russian Federation does not go further west. Ukraine today, in defending its territorial integrity, is in fact defending Europe. And if we don't get that straight, if we do not understand this, and if, God forbid, Ukraine does not succeed in overcoming this vicious hybrid aggression by the Russian Federation, then I assure you that the President of the Russian Federation will go further. The only question remains whether he will go and attack one of the Baltic countries or Poland. And then the question that the international community, or at least that the NATO state countries will have to answer, is whether we all go to war in virtue of Article 5 of the NATO Convention, or whether we'll sacrifice a Lithuania, like some have done with appeasement policies that have led to the Second World War. And they take the course of appeasement, that will spell the end of NATO, and the Russian president will slowly, one by one, take one country after another. If, on the other hand, people stand up and apply Article 5, then, ladies and gentlemen, we will be facing what our parents faced, a third world war. That is why this is an extremely serious situation. That is why we should be extremely grateful to the soldiers that are sitting in front of us, because they are ensuring that we do not face that tragedy. This is not a time for EU countries, for the US or Canada or any other country to talk about Ukraine fatigue. This is not an issue today of measuring, is Ukraine reforming fast enough or not fast enough. This is a question of whether we want, at a very low cost to the international community, to ensure that Ukraine succeeds and that we all live in a more secure and stable world. Those are the issues that we're facing today. Thank you for your attention. Вам скласти нашу щиру подяку, що ви захищаєте не тільки східний кордон України, але захищаєте цілу Європу. On behalf of the Ukrainian World Congress, I'd like to say that we welcome the decision of the United States of America and Canada at the end of 2017 in enabling Ukraine to obtain defensive lethal weapons. I also want to assure you, dear soldiers, that the Ukrainian World Congress will continue to ensure that sanctions are maintained. We will be promoting that sanctions not only be maintained apologetically, but that sanctions be increased for the continuous blatant violation of the most fundamental principle of the respect of the territorial integrity of independent states. We will be promoting for the Russian Federation to be taken off the SWIFT system. We will be promoting for as many states to do what Canada has done, what the United States have done, what some Baltic countries have done, namely to adopt Magnitsky Law legislation to punish those who blatantly violate human rights. And we will continue to promote for Ukraine to obtain a Marshall Plan in order to ensure that the international community helps strengthen Ukraine and ensure that the cost of Russian aggression becomes so high that it becomes unbearable. That is the only time that President Putin will sit at a table and discuss a peacekeeping mission, a real peacekeeping mission in eastern Ukraine, and a monitoring mission in Crimea. President Putin only understands a position of strength, and I want to assure you that as you have that strength and courage to defend the territorial integrity of Ukraine, the 20 million Ukrainian diaspora, headed by the Ukrainian World Congress, will ensure that the international community continues to support you, to increase that support, and to help you overcome Russian aggression and ensure that all of us live in a more secure and stable world. I would like to thank all of the members of Parliament who have spoken today, including Mr. Petras Ostravicius, Mr. Mark Demesmarker, Mr. Tuni Kalam. I particularly want to thank Mrs. Anne Fatiga for having had the vision and the understanding of the importance of such a session. As chair of the subcommittee on security and defense of the European Parliament, Madam Fatiga, it is to your honor, and we are extremely grateful that you had the vision and the understanding that this was an important issue to get us all here and to hear the testimony of those brave soldiers. Thank you very much for your vision, and we wish you much success in your continued very important work. Thank you everyone for having attended this session, which is now closed.